Mr. Matthew, good to see you again. It's been a minute.
Yes, sir, it has. So how are you doing over there, Alex?
It's like what. First of all, before I answer that question, what I think is unbelievable is like, what are the chances? I don't know if you got the survey too from the NPower alumni. If you like fill it out and let people know how you've been for the past 2 or 3 years, you get like a 1 year LinkedIn membership. Did you fill that in?
I didn't receive that.
Oh, interesting.
So it's interesting that you mentioned NPower. That's where we met.
Hmm.
Yeah, we both come from a similar background as far as I remember. I've been building computers for 20 years, and it sounds like you've spent your life doing the same. Um,
Sort of.
I I remember we were involved in a project together related to networking, and I don't remember all of the details, but I remember at one point you were showing the whole class a gaming rig that you had just built, RGB. I think it was an Intel, maybe a 14th gen or something like that.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so you and I hit it off at that point. I knew that we had something in common. So
That's how that started. I always wondered. I'm like Matthew. I checked you out for a second. I scoped you out. I see how beautiful you treat your family and your son, and I'm like, you're a wholesome man, and I'm like, done. I want to connect with you just like that because we need more wholesome people nowadays. um,
yes.
Regarding End Power though, well, for me, my point was, and I apologize for the gloves. It's all part of the costume.
Okay.
um, Basically, regarding the NPower, what I thought was crazy is that they sent me the interview, and I mentioned to you through the chat, but I wanted to let people know here because I'm like, I don't believe in coincidences. I think things are just there's a reason that things happen, or the what's the saying that there's there's a reason for things. I forgot the term. Like I speak Spanish. I
Everything
forget.
happens for a reason.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
I get confused because I speak Spanish, but um, yeah, like I was filling that out, and then within like 10 seconds, you messaged me. I'm like, Matthew from NPower. What are the chances that they send me a survey for me to complete to then get? Because I haven't spoken to anybody since NPower since then. Actually, maybe one person like a month later, and then we lost. Everybody focused on their own route. So
Right.
I don't remember the project though. I wonder because a networking part of it, it never stuck with me. It was such a complicated thing. Um,
Right.
but I'm curious to hear what you got out of it, your behind the scenes, and we can go from there.
Yeah, well, just to follow up with what you just had to say, I don't believe in coincidences either. I do believe that everything happens for a reason. As it turns out, for the last 2 or 3 months, you and I are not connected on Facebook. Um, but it must be the algorithm because I'm getting these advertisements, and I was like, Alexandro, I remember you. We were on a project together in NPower.
Yeah.
And so then just the other day, another ad came across my feed, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out. That guy was super nice. He builds machines. We live in the same neck of the woods here in the Lower Mainland.
Where are
So
you? Where exactly? Like you can tell the location, but you don't have to say where exactly.
yeah, I'm currently in Surrey.
Okay,
Um,
got it. I'm by East Vancouver.
y-
Yeah, sort of.
yeah,
Not that
yeah.
far.
I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, you're in Vancouver.
Mhm.
Um, my girlfriend works at UBC in Vancouver, so we're all around.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're currently living in Surrey.
I was gonna ask you, which ad showed up? Because I want to. I'm still trying to figure out. Nobody can figure out the algorithm. I'm still trying to understand a bit like behind the scenes of how things work. Because I just my curiosity is just like I can get into rabbit holes about everything. Except
Yes.
like sports is probably the only thing that I would never care about. My mind doesn't go there. I was raised a bit differently. I was raised playing tennis and riding horses was like my main thing. I was in equestrian for like 12 years of my life. So
Okay.
I was never sports fan, and this has never made sense. But everything else, like I go really deep into. Like I'm really interested about people's lives and their stories and whatever it is. Like we can get into almost any topic, and I probably have an opinion about it. But when it comes to the ad itself, I'm curious to see which one did you get because I'm trying to see what works, what doesn't.
You know, your icon when the video wasn't working earlier, and I'm not trying to
Uh-huh.
spoil anything, but
Sure.
it was that image, and it was something about like philanthropy, like donating IT services. I don't remember exactly, but just seeing your face kind of, you know,
That's crazy.
clicked in my mind like, I got to reach out. What's he doing? It looks like he's doing well. Um,
it's, it's the
and so
social
that's
media
what
effect.
prompted the message there.
I see.
Sorry.
Okay. No, no worries. Regarding, I don't remember if it was I just updated my Facebook picture to like me at Linus Tech Tip Studios, and my partner took a picture, literally where Linus creates all his videos in the main. What would you call that? Like it's he has all the tools behind him, the fans and everything hanging around, and there's like a graphics card right in the middle, plugged into like a little workbench. So I
Right.
updated the picture, but I never posted it as an ad. So it's crazy that I don't know if that showed up because we're not Facebook friends, but
Right.
maybe. But like my goal of Tech is to be a social enterprise, to
Right.
be more giving than taking, and that's why I created it. It was to make tech support accessible to everyone. So
Right.
I don't charge for it, and it's pay what you can. Some people, I love it because it's you get to connect on a deeper level with people and have these more real conversations of getting to know who they are, hearing their backstory, just like implementing, um, just getting to know my clients on a deeper level, plus tech support. And then when you remove money out of the equation and you just like give to help, um, there's no expectations because unlike you, my friend, you have 20 years in this. I have 5 years of dabbled in A+ certificates and mentorships and trial and error. That's it. School never made sense to me, so I just wanted to go out there and help. And the first
Right.
person that first person I built a computer for, it took me 12 hours, but I kept them engaged in all this stuff. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was funny because 12 hours later I finished it and it's all colorful because the more RGB you add to it, the more, I guess, complicated it gets with so many, it's a whole rat's nest in the back. And I kept him engaged. I kept him really engaged and we had a really cool conversation, but he was a rich kid and he gave me $10 or something like that for 12 hours of work. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
80 cents an hour, that's pretty good for the
Yeah.
1950s.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it is what it is, but you build the repertoire. My goal is to collect reviews, and then you get to a point that I'm like, I really don't have no money to pay you. And I'm like, well, what can you pay me in? I'll pay you
Right.
in tattoos, I'll pay you in guitar lessons, I'll pay you in Monopoly money. People give me board games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm really like just trying to do something that hasn't been done before and to see if I can leverage my clients and their trust to offer them like web design or SEO or app development if it's business to business and go from there.
Right.
Hmm.
I love that. It sounds like the story of my life in a lot of ways. I'm passionate about technology, building computers, figuring out new software. And so, like you had mentioned, going down the rabbit holes. Um, I don't watch sports either. What a waste of time.
That's going to
That's
be a
my
controversial
perspective.
take.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sure.
I have no gloves to throw off. My elbows are not up. I focus on tech because it turns a crank in my mind and I enjoy it. But, that led me down the road of being the IT guy for not just my family, but everyone around me
Hmm.
seemed to gravitate towards me as, hey, Matt can fix it. Let's give him a call. Um,
And you went by,
so
just sorry to interrupt you, but you went by the Mac guy you mentioned?
here in Surrey, that's funny. So I immigrated to Canada 6 years ago to be with my son. So if you remember back to 2019, that's when the pandemic started. I was very much boots on the ground, marine electrician. I was wiring up boats.
Hmm.
I met my partner, things went well. We had a baby on the way, and then all of a
Congrats.
sudden, the pandemic started.
Hmm.
And so I had to make a choice. Am I going to stay in the States where I'm from, but then be separated from my family, or am I going to immigrate to Canada? Which had never crossed my mind until meeting my partner. And yeah, things
Sure.
happened. And so, to make a long story short, I arrived in Canada, and you're not allowed to work when you first arrive.
Hmm.
Okay, like there's a process where you're just simply not allowed to work. And so I had a hard time with that. I had worked since I was like 12 in different capacities. So here I am. My girlfriend is pregnant. She's on her maternity leave. I'm not allowed to work. And so I was on Craigslist. I was on Facebook Marketplace finding computer components, building kits for as cheap as I could just to keep my gears going, like I can't stop doing this. This is what
Correct.
I do.
Hmm.
Um, and so I feel that I'm rambling. I apologize.
No, no, you're good. Fantastic. I have some
Uh,
questions, but you let me know when.
yeah. So basically, just being in those venues, being on Craigslist, being on Facebook Marketplace, I met a lot of the key players, if you will, the key players here in the Lower Mainland, and they started asking me, "Hey, I know you can't work, but why don't you fix this laptop for me, and I'll give you this SSD drive that you need?" And I'm short on cash, not being able to work, so I started bartering.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll update the Mac OS on your MacBook. It'll take me an hour or two, and I need that SSD in exchange. So, although there was an exchange,
Hmm.
um, it was my time for a thing. There was never any purchase. Again, because I simply didn't have the cash.
Sure.
Um, So I guess the difference between you and I is I don't have a formal structure, nor do I have a tuxedo. Um, but we're basically doing the same thing as far as I can tell.
Question for you, my friend. You're from where in the States?
Yeah, so I'm from Washington State, born and raised. I've lived all over Washington State. I also lived in Massachusetts, lived and worked in Boston and Cambridge. So I've
Okay.
been on both sides of I-90 in the United States.
I-90 is?
It's like the main highway. It connects
Sure.
the West Coast to the East
Totally.
Coast. Just south of the border, there's that primary highway there.
And then you grew up, or what brought you to NPower? Because you've been doing PCs for 20 years, so I would think that you would know
Yeah.
everything about NPower, no?
Well, so that's an interesting dynamic or point to raise. Yes, I have been involved in IT, building computers, software development, hardware development. I'm Kilo Echo 7 Bravo Sierra Alpha. I'm a radio operator. And so I spent about 6 years doing research and development in Seattle, Washington.
Hmm.
And so I have developed products, developed the software, the hardware. I was primarily the hardware guy. But, you know, as is with hardware, there's always software programming that happens next.
Hmm.
You can build the thing, but now you have to configure the thing. Think BIOS settings and things like that. Um, so anyway, again, I'm rambling. I'm
Okay.
from
Hmm.
Washington State. I have a ton of experience in IT, hardware, software. I'm also a certified marine electrician with the ABYC. And so these are all stateside credentials.
Hmm.
Yeah. I also went to college for clean energy, and that kind of led to me becoming an electrician. But then I arrived in Canada and I was told, you have no Canadian work experience. And so go back to school.
Wow. So they don't even validate any of your work when you come from the US.
No,
Interesting.
no. So if I were in healthcare, if I were one of the necessary, I'm not sure what they call it, but here in this province, if I were a nurse or a doctor or certain knock codes, then the experience is transferable. Um, I apparently fell into a category that was not needed in the employment market that my experience falls into. And so it was all assessed by some expert in the province. And I was told that I would have to go back to school. Well, that's a difficult proposition when you're not allowed to work, right,
Correct.
during the immigration process. And I was coming here under a family permit
Hmm.
because, well, I was having a family and
Sure.
anyhow. So
Hmm.
I wasn't allowed to work. I couldn't really afford to go to school. I wasn't prepared for that. I, I wasn't prepared for the whole immigration journey, but
Sure.
so here I am without credentials. I've applied for work way outside of the scope of my experience as a professional. My career in the States simply wasn't transferable experience. That's what I kept being told. Um, you know, and in order for me to stay with my family, my son is 5 now, by the way.
Hmm.
He just started kindergarten.
Hmm.
Um, that he is the joy of my life.
I see
Um,
that on Facebook.
yeah, it's hard to explain, but having a child changes you
You know
and
what?
it changes your
I'll,
priorities.
I'll take your top three pros and cons of having a child.
Oh, wow. I better think this one through.
Yes, please.
Well, pros and cons. Pros, you learn what real love is. I don't think I was able to say I love you to people. Um, I was able to express the sentiment of love,
Sure.
but I never really understood what love was
Hmm.
until you're holding this human being in your hands.
Hmm.
So pros, you learn some sort of an emotional intelligence that
Hmm.
wasn't available to me until I became a parent.
Sure.
I've learned patience
Hmm.
that I wouldn't have had to learn if it weren't for having a child.
Hmm.
Um, pros and joy. I would say that joy, spending time with my family, doing things that are not really, out of the ordinary or even that great. I feel filled,
Hmm.
um,
Fulfilled as well.
fulfilled. Yeah,
Sure.
fulfilled is the right way of putting it. In a way that I had never experienced leading up to becoming a father. So those are my pros. Now I'm going to be careful with the cons. You lose, um, you lose your time
Hmm.
in so many ways. The sacrifice of your time. Um, So, yes, in the past, I had lived in Washington and Boston. I was a grown up, yeah. Like I
Sure.
did my own dishes, I did my own laundry, all of these things. It's just multiplied by a factor of 10 when you have a child. And, you know, it's hard to explain, but you lose a lot of your time.
Hmm.
I would say that's a
It's not about you anymore. It's about the baby. Put it that way.
yes,
For the next
yes.
18 or
So,
19 years.
exactly.
Sure.
And so I've got another 15 years to go.
There we go.
And I'm excited about it. Like I
Hmm.
say, the pros outweigh the cons, but you lose your time. Um, let's see. I guess until I became a father, I had never understood, not that I didn't understand what it meant to respect authority, right? Like at one point in my life, I was going to join the military. That's another tangent. So I'll stop.
Sure.
But I
No problem.
understand respect for authority. But then you have your own child and they say no, despite all the practical reasons why, being told no constantly.
Hmm.
It just kind of wears on your spirit, your self-respect. Not self-respect. It just something happens. There's a weight that falls on you
Hmm.
having to constantly debate with a 5-year-old. It can be challenging. I would call that a con. But uh, yeah, I guess nothing else comes to mind. It's a lot. To
Yeah.
become a parent is a huge responsibility.
Mhm.
Um, I never saw it coming, but I would never take it back. It's the best thing in the world. So,
Good. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm always looking for advice because I want to be. They say you're never really prepared, but it's good to still get some mentorship on it for when it's my turn. So because
yes,
I hear the first 2 years are impossible, going to bed and everything.
yes,
Good luck with
it's
that.
constant requirements, but you make it through, and then you can kind of, it's like an inside joke
Mhm.
between you and other parents. You don't know until you've become a parent about that first couple years.
Oh boy.
Uh, so it's like an inside joke that
Sure.
I can look at other parents and they can look at me and we're on the same page. Yeah.
You
So,
get it. Side.
yes.
I know it was a side tangent, but again, I'm interested about a lot of stuff, and anytime that I can get advice or get people plant seeds with me, and I can plant seeds with them because you can't control anybody, but you can influence them. I'm happy to
Right.
take any mentorship, any advice. Regarding the back to the tech side for a second, you decided to, or how did you get into tech? Like, did you formally go to school and that stuff, or drop out as
I
well?
did.
Hmm.
So now I'm 40, by the way. I think you're in your 20s, yeah?
I thought you were gonna be like 33, 34. Take a guess. How old do you think I look? Because it depends if I shave or not.
Well, and me too. People tell
Yeah.
me I look 12 when I shave,
Yeah.
and then
Same.
I,
Okay.
okay, so my guess is that you're 25 to 30,
Close.
30 being max. Okay,
28. Yeah, that's correct.
okay, yep. So I'm becoming an old man.
Sure.
At 40, I've got grays to prove it, yeah. So I can see that I'm aging. So this starts a long time ago. Um, I'll spare you some of the details, but my parents got divorced when I was young. I was 5. So my mom, uh, you know, was dating, and she was dating this teacher in the town where we're from, and he was a very nice guy. His name was Tim, and I believe he was teaching English, like ESL classes, things like that.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed going to his house because I got to sit on the only computer that had the internet. And this is a long time ago. We're talking like a 14.4 kbps modem,
Wow.
dial up.
Got it.
And so we're talking about a very old Macintosh with a dial up modem. And I remember that sound like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
The excitement that would just build as you're getting close to the connection.
Sure.
You've got mail was a thing.
Yep.
So, anyway, I got to go to his house and sit on this computer. And that's where the passion started. I was able to jump into chat rooms and talk to people about airplanes, which was at the time, that's what I was very passionate about.
Mhm.
And like you had said earlier, like I go down rabbit holes
Oh.
and
Mm-hmm.
I have to know every single thing about every plane out there or every computer, or every processor. I have to know it all. And then once I've learned it all, it's just stored,
Sure.
right? Until I need it. Um, and so that's where my passion for technology started.
And you mentioned at what age? I missed that part.
I was 8.
Got it. Okay.
And so this is back in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, this gentleman, Tim, ended up moving to China to teach English.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he left, I got home from school one day and I walked into my bedroom and all of his Macintosh computers were sitting on my bed. And I think I must have cried because I was
Wow.
so thrilled. SCSI floppy disks,
Wow.
the modem, Apple II color, a mouse, a printer, it was all there. And he no longer needed it. Yeah. So he had reset the username to Matt and a password of 1234.
Sure.
And now I was off to the races.
Holy
So
crap.
I'm
And
8 years old.
it wasn't even Christmas, eh? Just a
No, it
random
was
day.
just a random day. It
Hmm.
was a summer day. I remember it being sunny and the sun just beaming in on these Macintoshes. And so that's where it all starts. I was very young. This is before most people even had a computer
Sure.
in their homes. And if you did, you were wealthy. And I was not wealthy. You know, my parents did okay. They both worked hard, but we were not wealthy. And now all of a sudden, I've got my own tech. You know, one of my first projects was to route a phone cable from the demarcation box outside the front of our house to my bedroom. This was all secret,
Sure.
so that I could dial up to the internet at night,
Nice.
and just sit in AOL chat rooms and talk about airplanes. And so I've really gone down the rabbit hole there. I apologize
No
for
problem.
rambling. It all started there. And keep in mind, I'm like in middle school. I believe I was in middle school at that point. So I became very quickly obsessed with tech. But that led into now I'm helping the librarian fix her computer at school. And I quickly became known as the kid who knew. And this was before, again, most people had computers in their homes, maybe at work, maybe at school. But this is the era of going to the computer lab. Yeah, like you'd go to school after class to do your homework. Well, I didn't have to. I had a dot matrix printer of my own. And so I was blessed in
Mhm.
that way. Um, it was my foot in the door. So I went through school. I always had, call it like an edge,
Sure.
because I just had the exposure.
Hmm.
Um, and so then one of my first jobs after high school was a local computer shop
Hmm.
in the town where I'm from. And what they specialized in was servers
Hmm.
for the local school districts. And we're talking database servers, email servers, the whole lot. So they were building the hardware and deploying the operating systems and the required software. I became the purchasing guy. And so I'm now leaning on my experience um, to bring in compatible components for servers. And this is right out of high school. So it really drilled into my mind the importance of doing your due diligence, reading the manuals, the white papers, the spec documents, determining compatibility before you ever hit buy,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of headache can come from not doing your homework. So basically, I became the compatibility expert. You know, I had to cross all the T's and dot all the I's and then take out the company credit card and bring in the parts. So that's all boring, but it was meaningful
Sure.
because all the while, my hobby at that time, besides the computers, which was now my day job,
Hmm.
is I had been studying to become an amateur radio operator.
Hmm.
Something about amateur radio and
Sure.
electronics, like I always had this itch to get on a microphone and broadcast. The content was not as important to me as the equipment behind the physical broadcast into the ether, if you will. So, again, I'm rambling. I've always been a nerd, yeah.
Hmm.
But like my experience always kind of ran these parallel paths.
Hmm.
So I became an amateur radio operator. I'm obsessed with electronics and computers. My job is computers. Um, and that led me down the path to becoming a research and development engineer was my title.
Hmm.
I was building Linux boxes,
Hmm.
and the box itself, we're going to call it the encoder because its job was to encode HD video. And at the time, HD video was the de facto standard. There was no 4K unless you were Fox Studios or, you know,
A
uh,
conglomerate.
uh, yeah, a movie set.
Sure.
They may have had a 4K, but that camera probably cost 50 grand.
Sure.
Yeah. So we were designing products for broadcasters, defense contractors, anyone moving HD video and the requirement being low latency, like this conversation we're
Mm-hmm.
having right now, is really only possible because the latency is so small that we can have this conversation. Yeah, you feel
I see
me?
what you
Like
mean.
if there,
Yeah.
anyway, I'll spare you the details. Because of my radio background at that point,
Mm-hmm.
I had suggested to the CTO a solution to a problem that they were up against.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that led to a corner office on South Lake Union,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is a wonderful, it's the King's Court
Mm-hmm.
of Washington State. And so now I have a sliding glass door that I can watch the float planes take off. It was amazing, but I was designing cellular broadcast equipment
Mm-hmm.
um, to transmit low latency video. The solution I came up with without infringing on any NDAs had to do with amplification and a backpack.
Hmm.
And this was quickly adopted by broadcasters like Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all the major players in the United States.
Hmm.
So I was flown all around the country, setting up these encoders, the product that I was responsible for was called the Avenir. And the product that I designed and then really deployed was called the AREM. Um, and so that was a backpack that allowed the cameraman
Mm-hmm.
to be a satellite truck, yeah, without a satellite. So
Interesting.
over multiple cellular connections, that video signal was muxed, sent out over multiple links to the public internet, and then recombined at a decoder. So
How,
anyway,
I'll pause you
yeah,
there for a second. How content were you on a scale of 1 to 10 there? Your happiness levels. 10 out of 10 because you're doing what you love. 8 out of
yes.
10, 1 out of 10. Where were you?
In all honesty, it was an 8 out of 10. My work life was 10 out of 10. I was in a relationship I shouldn't have been in,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of weighed down that 2 points on the scale.
Sure.
Yeah, like I loved what I was doing. There were nights that I slept at work. I would literally you know, do whatever project or study I was working on, and I'd wake up at work the next morning,
Sure.
just because I didn't want to go
Mm-hmm.
and face the music in that relationship. And so I'll leave it there.
Sure, sure, no worries. The behind the scenes of all this is did you say you had a formal schooling background? So you graduated with a
I went to a community college
sure,
in the town where I'm from. I'm from Bellingham, Washington.
sure.
Not like I need to keep it secret. Basically, I grew up 30 minutes south of the Canadian border.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we've always been neighbors. Yeah, like we used to come to Canada just for fun. So getting back to your question, I enjoyed the work in R&D more than anything else I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always been involved in technology in one way or another. I've done technical support roles. Circling back to the education, I was in a program that in the States we call the Running Start program. It meant that I had taken a test and done exceptionally well, which placed me in a position where my high school counselor said, you know, I know you're bored with sitting here in class, and I know you have a hard time with it, but you have what it takes to do well.
Sure.
I want to challenge you
Mm-hmm.
to go to this community college.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, and I studied computer science
Mm-hmm.
because I knew I could hit that ball out of the park.
Sure.
Um,
And you did, I'm guessing.
I did. Yes, I did. And I enjoyed that very much.
Mm-hmm.
But then, at that particular time, I got a good job. I was working for UPS,
Mm-hmm.
the brown trucks, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that deliver all of our Amazon or used to.
Sure.
Um, and I was a clerk. So my job was actually sitting on a computer making address corrections and making phone calls and
Sure.
yada yada. Um, so again, kind of had a technical aspect to the job. And I fell in love with money.
Mm-hmm.
I, the problem for me was that I had a girlfriend who I loved very much at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And she came from a wealthy family. I came from a working class family. And so I had to try really hard uh, to bring in the cash.
Sure.
It was not just given to me
Mm-hmm.
ever. And so in order to keep her around and keep her entertained and all these things, I realized I was just going to have to work hard.
Correct.
And so my priorities shifted. I wish that hadn't been the case. I wish I had gone the whole 9 yards with university
Mm-hmm.
and finished up. Um, in my family, you know, people join the military and they serve and they get out and now they've got a GI Bill, which means you can go to college. Yeah,
That's what I wish.
after you serve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did join the military. I was going to be an SECF, a submarine electronic and computer specialist,
Tough.
or submarine electronic and computer field in the
Mm-hmm.
US Navy. I scored exceptionally well on the ASVAB, which is the placement exam. Um, and so I was going to ship off. I started lifting weights. I became very jacked, like
Sure.
I broke the school deadlift record. That was my rabbit hole at
Mm-hmm.
that moment in my life was I'm going to become a Navy SEAL. Not
Mm-hmm.
only am I going to fix the Navy's computers, I am going to be the guy.
Nice.
I I had seen too many Jason Bourne kind of
No, I
movies
get
at
it.
that point.
Yep.
But one Friday night I brought that girlfriend at the time. I brought her out for a steak dinner, and by Sunday I was in the hospital having 2.5 feet of my small intestine removed. And so my whole story changed at that point in my life where everything was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
And now I was 17 and a half, and I had just had a major surgery. And it was partially related to all the weightlifting
Mm-hmm.
that I was doing,
Hernia?
but it
No.
was no, it was called Meckel's diverticulitis. It was like a fork in the road. And imagine kinking a garden hose, the
Sure.
flow stops, a section died, it had to be removed. It came with a lot of complications.
Can't imagine.
And I'll just leave the story as far as the complications go.
Sure.
They've been with me since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They
And
stick.
I'm modified.
Mm-hmm.
You have 18 feet of small intestine. Now I have 15 and a half feet.
That
So
much.
that's how much I can absorb
Mm-hmm.
vitamins, minerals, etc. from my food. So I'm sorry for this
No,
tangent, but
not at all.
it at the time of my life, I was 17 and a half. Most of my friends are shipping off to their respective universities,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm laying in a hospital bed, and it just changed everything for me. The medical wrench in the wheel
Mm-hmm.
in my life. It it was a setback, but it's added some resiliency to me that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. I've been able to fight my way back to a healthy position despite the challenge. But it was a setback. And I think that's why I can sit here and talk about not having a university degree. And I'm okay with it.
Me too.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I can go into an environment and recognize the wealth of knowledge that I have. I acquired because of my passion, not for, I see your credentials on the wall. And congratulations for each one, because I know
I
that you
guess.
worked to acquire them.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in that sort of thing.
Sure.
And I know that's not a popular position, but I believe that you know what you know and you can do what you can do. And
Mhm.
it's all a choice. Um, and so hopefully that answers the question. That was a
Perfect.
really long-winded answer. I apologize.
No, that works for me. One point about the awards is because I've never actually I've failed so many goddamn times in life. It
Okay.
become I don't even call them failures anymore because I can't. I would become depressed. I just
Right.
consider them learning moments. There's way too many challenges. I think life's going good, and then the stock market crashes in my life, not
Right.
in
Right. I follow.
metaphorically. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is just a reminder for myself. It's not about showing it off or whatever. It's just like, oh wow, I built something from nothing, which I didn't think that was possible, because I've had
Yes.
so many different limiting beliefs. And being raised in Colombia, you're raised. This is you get to be eight things: a lawyer, a doctor. This. None of that made sense to me. School never made sense. Back in the day, I had the controversial take thinking that college was a scam because I'm like, why would I ever get in debt for this long? And then if I don't even know what I want to do, it like for me it wasn't like how do I say it? It just didn't. It never really clicked. My ADHD is I don't know if it's ADHD because it turns out we all have ADHD at this point. I haven't heard anybody that hasn't
Yeah.
said that, but
Right.
way too distracted. Maybe it's because we're drowning in information and we're starving for wisdom, and everybody's trying to capture our attentions. That I was just like, this doesn't make sense. I'm interested in the people in the class. I'm interested in the teacher. I'm not interested in the subjects. I want to learn about the
Right.
person. And but I was very introverted back then. So my thing was like never about actually going out there and engaging with others. It's just like tired. Not tired. I was nervous and of rejection, of anxiety. At some point I had social anxiety. I was way too I couldn't come out of my shell. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. So it was a lot of just trying there and putting myself in situations of like, do I see myself doing this for the next 20 years? And one of them was being in the military too. I had those thoughts, and I was like, but then my blueprint, the ideal Alejandro, my persona, the person that I really wanted to be, as what you were saying, I wanted to be 6'3", 200 pounds of jacked, uh,
Right.
beautiful, sexy guy lifting weights and taking care of the country and stuff. That would have been like my
Yep.
persona. I would have loved doing that. And then I'm like, I'm 5'8", 140. No matter how much I lift, I'm not gonna put on weight. No matter how much I eat, I don't put on weight. I don't get muscle. It's too hard.
Right.
I'll just take the martial art route. So that's been like my journey for like the past probably 7 years or so. I first started with kung fu, and then I did that was for just to train my mind, Wing Chun,
Yep. Yep.
and then I fell in love with Krav Maga. That's been like my go-to. But I understand. Like we have some things in common that I see myself in you, even though you're older than me. But I'm like, there's some things that I can relate to,
Right.
especially on the tech side. But I didn't get to know tech until my mom showed me a picture in one of those CRT monitors in 1999 or something. I was born in 96. For me, the 90s and the 2000s were the best time for me.
Yes.
Everybody's actually talking to each other. There's no this 24/7, right?
Yes.
We were much more connected and was it Web 2.0? What's it called? When the 2000s, what did they call that?
Y2K,
Thank
the
you.
Y2K BIOS uh, virus, or they basically got us all very afraid
Hmm.
that on New Year's Eve, year 2000, your computer's not going to turn back on. And so I had
Oh man.
computers, and
Hmm.
I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to change the date and time. I don't believe this is going to happen. So I did. I set it to New Year's, months in advance.
Sure.
I hit go and I watched the clock click, 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 click. And I'm celebrating New Year's 6 months early, but my computer still restarted.
Yep.
And so I was the guy telling everyone everywhere I went, your computer's going to be fine. This is just a big scare tactic. It's
You
just
are
another
correct.
one of these stunts. And sure enough, nothing happened. You
It's crazy how
New
that
Year
works.
came and went, and everything was fine. So,
Um, That just makes me think of like how much. Then there's 2012 that the world's gonna end, and then COVID, the world's
Yes.
over. Like we always have these
Well,
scare tactics to reset humanity. I don't even know why, but I don't understand it. You were gonna say something?
I believe that fear it is the lever that they use to keep us, they would say, in check. But when you're afraid, your mind is not as capable.
Sure.
And so, like you were talking about your ADHD and your social anxiety, I have experienced these as well. I do have ADHD, and so does my son. And kind of circling back to becoming a parent,
Mm-hmm.
when you have a son that has ADHD, and so now I can see what my parents went through, it helps you understand yourself.
Ooh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
It really turns a mirror onto you. And that's been therapeutic or cathartic for me. It's
Sure.
like a light bulb went off. But getting back to what we were just talking about, fear is the enemy. And fear is the way that they keep us blind, deaf, and dumb. And, it's a shame that as a human race, we allow it to continue this way. Because we're all worthy of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at peace, like you had mentioned, your martial arts practice,
Sure.
I desire that for my son. And I think that I would pursue it as well.
Recommend it.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yes, for sure. We've been looking into it, but it's quite expensive.
It is.
So,
Everything adds up. Tell me about it.
yes.
When actually, funny enough, when I was a kid, I started with karate. I remember doing like a month of that back in. I lived in Toronto for about 7 years of my life.
Okay.
We, and it was one of those things that I'm very grateful for because we moved from Colombia because it was it was, if you've seen Narcos, that's what was going on. And
Yeah.
that I was like my parents were like, we're not raising me here. I don't have brothers, sisters, cousins, grandparents. Everybody's on the other side, or I wasn't born with them. So it was just like
Right.
mainly us three, and we're like, it's either Australia or Canada. And then our Canadian visa showed up within like 2 months back in '99. So we were blessed to be, yeah, we moved to Toronto in I think it was 2000, 2001, maybe it was. And I remember one of the first things that I got into was in karate because they wanted me to learn a little bit just how to defend yourself.
Self-defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
really recommend it. Then I went back to
Yep.
Colombia for a bit, and I remember I was like, I still like this. I still like the idea of this. I don't like the ego part of it. That who's like the competition side. I see why, so you can get better as what just in your field and stuff. That's fine. For me,
Right.
it's when it gets the ego involved. When you verse someone that's thinks that they're better than you, that they're pretentious, that they can break your back, that they can just fold you in half, but they don't have to show it. I'd rather just go the humble approach, like the teacher.
Yes.
And some teachers, I had some complicated teachers, but most people were fine until that one guy that would just ruin it for me. I'm like, I don't want to come back. And I did like
Right.
probably like a year and a half of taekwondo, and it's so interesting because it's so like it was built into the school, so it was not even like an actual. They hired an actual taekwondo teacher, but the guy was like, "Okay, this is how you use the nunchucks. Great, let's go play
Okay.
soccer." He's like, "Let's go play
Oh,
soccer."
okay.
I'm like,
Perfect lesson. Yeah, I
"What?
learned a
What
lot.
was that?"
Right.
I don't know. That's again another separate tangent, but yeah, the martial arts has always been in me because I grew up with Bruce Lee and watching all these movies, and Jackie Chan has always been one of my favorites. Van Damme.
Right.
Even what's this guy's name? Uh,
Rocky. Let's not forget about Rocky.
Funny enough, I've never seen it. I have to watch that
Oh
movie.
my goodness.
I know.
It's the age difference. That's got to be
probably
it.
why. Was that movie in the 80s or 90s?
It was before my time, but once I saw the first one, well, I had to watch them all.
That's how
So,
good they are. Okay.
yeah.
On my to-do list. One of my last questions, because I was curious about you joined NPower. So you situated yourself here. You found NPower somewhere. I think I got an
Yep.
ad for it.
I think I did too.
Right? And then I was
Yep.
like, hey, we'll tell you how, we'll show you how, we'll guide you through, which is my way of learning. I love learning. Like, sure, you're in a group of people, but it's free, and it's
Yeah.
also, they teach you the basics of, I think it was PC hardware, and then networking, a little bit of sysadmin. I don't remember if cybersecurity or data recovery. I, like the main top five sections of or coding was another one. Not a fan at all.
Yes.
A little bit of Linux here too. You found that ad and you applied. Did you have a job back then? And how did that go?
I did not. Basically, since I arrived,
Mm-hmm.
there was a brief moment there where Pamela was pregnant. And so I was looking for work. And actually, I had applied for a work visa to come to Canada.
Sure.
I was offered a job as a marine electrician, and I kept getting denied for a work visa. I
Mm-hmm.
was surprised because I had a job offer. But long story short, we had to take the family visa route, and that all came through. But then I wasn't allowed to work, yes. So I became a caregiver for the first time in my life.
Sure.
Uh, and then Pamela went back from her maternity leave. She worked at a university.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, now I'm really a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. I had been in the NPower program. We were nearing, I'd say, two-thirds of the way done.
Mm-hmm.
And Pamela went back to work. And I just found I can't commit to these periods of time throughout the day for the Zoom sessions I
Mm-hmm.
think we were doing.
Sure.
And so, unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish. I did exceptionally well at all
Mm-hmm.
aspects of the NPower course. And then, right at the end, it wasn't feasible for me to
Oh, I
continue.
didn't know you
And
dropped off. So you weren't able to graduate.
no.
Got it.
And so, I'm still without Canadian credentials, despite
Wow.
obviously knowing all of these things. It's just been one, like you said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my life, things go good, and then I get tripped. And then things go good, and I get tripped.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to Canada has been like getting tripped about 20 times. And I think that's partly because now I'm a parent,
Sure.
and it's this constantly evolving um, set of expectations.
How are you surviving then?
Hardly.
Mm-hmm.
But I found a job in the States.
Mm-hmm.
I completed that contract that helped me basically pay some bills that I was way behind on.
Mm-hmm.
I before I came to Canada,
Mm-hmm.
my father really drilled this concept into our minds. I have a younger brother and an older sister, and
Sure.
so I had never missed a payment in my life. And then I came here and you're not allowed to work. I had to let that go. I
Mm-hmm.
had to just let it go. I'm going to miss these payments. My credit score is inevitably going to sink a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not me. That's
Sure.
just this illusion, this your FICO score. Apparently, there's someone named Fair Isaac who's constantly monitoring your bills and your ability to pay things back. Well,
Hmm.
at the moment, I cannot pay things back. And so as far as surviving, the blessing in my life is my son's mother, Pamela.
Mm-hmm.
She has been a blessing, and she, because I've been a caregiver for our son,
Mm-hmm.
Lucas, by the
Mm-hmm.
way, she's been able to really kind of raise up in her career or focus in on her career at the university. And so she's doing well. And I am incredibly thankful for her.
She
Um,
does what? What's her field?
she is a grant writer.
Mm-hmm.
And so she does a lot of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't tell you specifically, except for to say that she's raising money for different important projects at the university and elsewhere. They have remote campuses and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
she's raising money for projects.
Sure. So
She's very good at what she does.
beautiful. So in summary, stay at home dad and have a blast with the baby.
It's been a blast, and now it's a lot of work too. But yes, raising a son. Yeah.
I wonder, because it's of the people that I've met, and I love talking to everybody as much as I can. I've noticed that usually it's not common, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
How do you? Because if I put myself in that position, my mind goes, and obviously this has nothing to do with you because you're completely capable. You easily could be making $250,000 a year, if not more, if not six figures easily, based on what you know. But it's cool that you have a different mindset of like this. It is what it is. I'm happy and I'm fulfilled anyways doing what I love. I could be doing more. My mind goes, it's because I'm trying to find my fulfillment in my life. Like, holy shit, I got a kid to raise.
Yeah.
Or depending on her, uh, what, how do you not let the what if take over?
Um, I think in summary, I had to surrender. I had to let my ego die.
Sure.
And I'm not sure what the song is, but there's a song that comes to mind. I
Hmm.
killed the part of me that wanted to die. And I didn't want to die, but I will clarify by saying
Sure.
the ego is a construct that you've built to defend yourself from the world. Yeah.
Sure.
People's opinions of you and your opinion of yourself comes from the ego in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And in so many ways, the world plays on those insecurities, those fears, circling back to the fears. I had to let that go and recognize that this ego that I had built as a boy, the boy who built the ego, I found myself in a new season
Mm-hmm.
of my life where that ego, that software, was no longer relevant to the goal.
Sure.
And it took a lot of meditation. It took a lot of introspection.
Mm-hmm.
I had to let that go. And I'm not saying that I'm without ego.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you know what? I did my hair today before this little meeting here. I
Beautiful.
brushed my hair and I put on my nice shirt.
Beautiful.
And is that not a part of my ego as well? But I didn't want to let you and your viewers down. I mean, I see
It's usually my parents, but
your
I'll take it.
well, no, what you're doing is great.
Thank you.
You are a wonderful um, character as far as all of us YouTube viewers. I like coming across content like yours. The world needs more positivity.
Mm-hmm.
It needs more critical thinkers who are able to think for themselves. And I believe that's you. I like your story, because like you said, I'm not looking to bring in clients to bill them and say, hey, what's in it for me? And rubbing stacks of hundreds together, that's not what I see in you. That's what I like about you because um, obviously I'm in a similar situation where I'm still doing tech. I can't stop that aspect of my
Sure.
mind. It's
Mm-hmm.
always going to be there. But, I'm not making money from my skills at the moment. And maybe that's slightly disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
That will inevitably change.
Mm-hmm.
And I will come into mine. But at the moment, I'm a full time dad. And I
Sure.
do a lot of vacuuming and I do a lot of dishes and the laundry. And I'm
Sure.
an expert at the Cinderella program now. And I'm actually quite okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it brings me joy to know that I'm taking those things off of my partner's plate. I don't want Pamela to come home to a pigsty and a sink full of dishes. That would make me
I get it.
feel bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answers the question.
we once again we have that in common as I have a kid yet as far as I know. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I have that like when it comes to the cleanliness, I'm 100%. That's actually part of the outfit. So part of it is
Right.
the tuxedo, but also I don't like touching my equipment. I don't know if it's actual OCD. I probably have it. I haven't checked into it to see if it's actually OCD, but based on the symptoms that I have, I do check my spreadsheets way too often. Sometimes I'm like, did I lock that? And I go and double check. Like, there's some symptoms that I'm like, okay, this probably could be, but the cleanliness is
Right.
number one. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
you do that for her because I do that the same for my partner. She does her
Right.
part-time work or more full-time work, and then for me it's spontaneous, right? Whoever needs tech help, whoever needs their website design, I try to find different ventures and ways to whether it's entertain people. Now that I just started TikTok, but all this stuff still doesn't make sense to me, even though I'm a tech guy. I feel like I'm a boomer with this, just because the concept, I only just grasped the concept probably like a week ago, being like, oh, actually they're real people watching my things. It never, I don't know, my mind works completely different. So
Right.
but the cleanliness, I'm a big fan of keeping things mint condition. I think there's this, which I have to do I have to look into it a little bit more, but there's a study on just having, it's sort of like the Jordan Peterson, keep your room clear and tidy.
Make your bed. I think it's rule like number 4 or something like
Something like
that
that.
in 12 Rules for Life. Yes.
Because it's a
Jordan
reflection.
Peterson is the man.
He's got some good stuff. I
Yes.
agree with a lot of his stuff, and just like we all have an opinion about everything, but I don't. There's some stuff that I disagree, which probably won't get into. But when it comes to the
Yes.
cleanliness, I'm super into it. Like I know it's usually a reflection of what's going on in your brain when you have so much clutter and shit around the house that I'm like, less is more. I'd rather you
Yes.
be happy with what you have and keep it simple, minimalistic, instead of I understand why people be attached to items too. Oh, this was passed down from the 1800s down to me. Sure, but how many of those are you gonna collect? Unless there's worth of value to them. The whole point, what I'm trying to say is, I can relate with what you said with that, and it's fun because it's, at least it keeps our minds active, and sometimes I feel like, because I don't know what it's like to be a dad, but the more that I talk to people, the more I get a sense of it, and you'll never know until you're in it. Um, but you also want to provide a good example, because if you, and how grounded you are, how friendly you are, and how wholesome you are, I'm like, that's gonna make the kid fantastic. What a role model. My dad was like that, yeah, but my mom was in command. She's the fiery whip, and if you fuck up, you get whipped. She was a,
Right.
well, she still is to this day, but now I I have martial arts, not to defend myself,
Yeah.
but
Come at me, mom.
yeah, she's
That's funny.
it's a different culture. Let's put it that way. The Colombian culture
Yeah.
is completely different to how they were raised here, and is it right to wrong? It's raised me to be a resilient type of guy. To when life hits you and you crash down and you hit bedrock, as I would say in Minecraft, like the lowest part that you can't break through.
Yes.
I All you can do is like, or hitting the bottom of the swimming pool. If all you can do is look up, you might as well swim up. Like, instead of trying to break through that bedrock and then who knows what's on the other side, the void or death or who knows. So I'd rather not. I'd rather use everything
Right.
that's happened to me as fuel and build some resilience out of it. Um, I haven't even gone to in depth about that, but I do have to run over to get my cat to. He burned his paws the other day. We gotta go take him to get some ointment and
Oh
stuff.
boy.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, best of luck. And hey, it was really great to catch up. This has been fun.
100%.
Um, Stay in touch, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I will actually send you a message about a couple other thoughts that I have. We'll keep in
Okay.
chat through voice message and or through messenger, and we'll
Yep.
continue because it sparked an idea for me, at least to keep you hopefully entertained, because I'm looking for. I don't have enough business yet because I don't have a business background, but I'm always looking for people that are similar mindset. Usually with way more. I want to only talk to people, not talk to people. I want to do business people with people that are 10 times, 100 times smarter than me, and I know you bring a lot of value, so perhaps you can be my Surrey guy. Hey, there's a PC to be built here, there's a Mac to be, and then you're the guy for that. So we
For
can talk
sure.
more about that,
Okay.
and hopefully build a relationship there. And if you know people and whatever, because just to summarize everything, the mission is to make tech support accessible to everyone. I don't care
Yep.
how I'm paid for that. That's fine. Because I know trust is my number one thing with my clients. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. This is just the persona with the tuxedo, whatever. But I treat them as friends and family. That's my goal.
Right.
It just seems more grounded. It seems more not. Um, I like to rant about Best Buy, but sometimes they have no idea what they're doing with their Geek Squad, and I'm like, that's fine. It's a franchise. They gotta pay their bills and they have to hire, but their constant high turnover rate, what I've noticed, is just like, yeah, you don't there's no customer, like the customer service is not there, and I think that's priority, building that trust with people so they come back to you and not to.
Authenticity. I think
Correct.
that's what you offer is an authentic experience.
I won't bullshit you no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
same at the marketplace. One last thing I want to point out is there's so many people that rip off people, and I'm actually going to make a bit about this on TikTok. The engineering sample world. I don't know how much you know about the Intel CPU 0000. I don't know how if you ever encountered them. Please look that up. I want to get to know your thoughts on it.
Okay.
They're like embedded into motherboards shipped from somewhere in China, and they.
Oh, they're laptop CPUs that have been soldered down to like a standard socket, placed in a motherboard, and then sold for super cheap. Yeah, I have seen some examples of this.
Yeah, sold super cheap, but at the same time, people post on the marketplace, oh, it's 13th gen, 12th gen, and people don't say what it is. So then they think it's
Yeah.
like high standard. They go and test it, and of course, it's not meant for use. It crashes. So you got to replace the
Right.
whole. You literally can just ultimate frisbee that motherboard and CPU together, and then actually replace it for a real one, and the computer should work after that. But
Right.
it's such a common way to get scammed. So like, I want to let people know about that. And if you have any
Sure. Yeah.
ideas of topics that I should bring up like in my videos of like, hey, you should talk about this because this is interesting, send them over. That's not too
Yeah.
complicated because I want to keep things simple because the harder
Okay.
what's the quote, complexity is the enemy of execution, from my good friend,
Yep.
oh wait, you can't see him up here, Tony Robbins,
Okay.
my mentor and my north star. The harder
Yeah.
you make something, the less likely it is for you to act on it. So I really want to keep things really simple for people that have no idea what's going on, because I
Right.
even have no idea what's going on. Like, I do my best, but there's a lot of intricacies to everything. So if you can think of an idea, is awesome. And my next bit would definitely be talking about that CPU and motherboard combination, which is crazy that people would rip off people. So they sell computers for $1,500, $2,000. It does not perform the same. It will never perform the same. So
Right. It's a laptop dressed as a desktop. Yeah.
yeah, in a way,
Anyway,
but it
I
doesn't even
think I
perform.
follow, and I will investigate this
Let
and
me
give
know.
you my feedback. Yeah.
Cool. Fantastic, my friend. Well, I appreciate you coming, keeping it raw and organic and straight to the point. And thank you for sharing the story. We'll keep in touch. I'll send you a message after this. And
Okay.
yeah, like it's been great, my friend. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was great to chat, and best of luck with your cat.
Thank you, my friend.
I'll pray for your cat here in a
You got
moment.
it.
All right. Cheers.
Have a good one. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.